Good day. It's me, and you know what time it is. Time for another installment in my series where I look at the origins of iconic horror films. Today we travel back to 1988 and look at where one of the most beloved slasher movies of all time got its start, Child's Play, in 1985. Don Mancini was an aspiring screenwriter who had just moved to Hollywood after graduating from Emerson College in Boston with a degree in marketing. He wanted to write horror movies. The problem was he didn't know any producers who were interested in making them. Then he read an article about a toy company called Mattel that was having trouble with its finances. The article suggested that if Mattel could come up with some sort of hit product, they might be able to turn their company around before it was too late. Mancini thought this could be his big break, so he came up with an idea for a doll that would be perfect for teenagers. Sure, there were dolls on the market at the time, like Cabbage Patch Kids, but Mancini figured he could create something that would appeal more to older children and teenagers with something that looked more realistic. His idea was a doll that looked like a kid. He called it the Toddler. Mancini reached out to Mattel, but they told him they weren't interested in creating such a creepy-looking doll. Not to be deterred, Mancini kept trying different toy companies, and eventually he landed a meeting with someone at a small toy company called Worlds of Wonder. Now this company wasn't huge, but they did have one successful product on the market, the transforming robot toy called Gem and the holograms. After hearing Mancini's idea for the doll, they were interested. The person in charge at World of Wonder was named David Kirshner. He would later become known for producing movies like The Silence of the Lambs and Beetlejuice. Mancini wrote a treatment for the doll and sent it off to be made. And when it came back, he was so happy with how it turned out, he took it straight to the head of World of Wonder, who loved it. Soon after, the first prototype of the doll was complete. Now Mancini envisioned the doll being sold in 3 different outfits. There was the street clothes version, which was basically a doll dressed like a normal kid, a punk rock version, which wore a leather jacket and a baseball cap backwards, and a preppy version that came with a polo shirt and other nice clothes. The head of World of Wonder felt that these clothes were too expensive to include, and decided to only sell the doll in one outfit, street clothes. This is actually very similar to how the original Freddy Krueger looked. When he first appeared in A Nightmare on Elm Street, he was only seen in his trademark striped sweater and hat, whereas every subsequent film saw him in a whole new outfit. Also, while writing the treatment, Mancini imagined the doll having a name, one that would sound like something a kid would call their toy, but also pay homage to one of his favorite films, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. So he decided to call his creation Chucky. Mancini and World of Wonder knew they had a hit on their hands, so they began to pitch the doll to buyers at the toy fair in New York City. They showed buyers the prototype, and also a short film that they produced, featuring the doll. However, the response they got was not what they were expecting. Many of the buyers felt that the doll didn't look like a kid at all. In fact, many thought it looked more like John Wayne Gacy. With the negative response, World of Wonder decided to shelve the project until they could figure out how to make the doll more appealing. This led to a revised version of the doll being made. While the overall look remained the same, they made changes to the face to make it less creepy. Unfortunately, this still didn't sell well at the toy fair. Meanwhile, Mancini was struggling to find work as a screenwriter. He felt that his time at Emerson was a waste because nobody in Hollywood would return his calls. But finally, he met someone who would give him a chance. That person was David J. Schmoller. He was a director whose past credits included the one and only, the all-new Popeye Hour and Tourist Trap. He liked the screenplay that Mancini had written and asked him to do some uncredited rewrites on his upcoming film, The Hitcher. In 1986, The Hitcher was released. It received mixed reviews from critics, but fans of the slasher subgenre enjoyed it, and it grossed over $20 million worldwide. Mancini was excited because this meant that people still went to see slashers in theaters, and he felt now that he had the proof that he needed to pursue his own slasher film. He approached Schmaler with the idea of filming a movie based on the doll he created. Schmaler agreed to direct the film, and Mancini was finally able to get a screenwriting credit, with the film greenlit by World of Wonder. The next step was finding a studio willing to distribute the film. They shopped it around to several, but most were afraid to touch it because they felt it was too violent. Finally, they found someone willing to take the risk, and that was a small independent studio called Playtime Toys. They had only been in business for 4 years, but they had a good track record, having distributed films like Poltergeist and The Boy Who Could Fly. Principal photography on the film began in July of 1987, taking place in and around the area of Chicago, Illinois. Now, to keep production costs down, Schmaler chose to shoot the film in the suburbs, where homes were cheaper to rent. The filmmakers were able to get the doll finished in time for production, but it wasn't without its problems. It was originally designed to be a fully functioning doll that could walk and talk on its own. But due to technical difficulties, this proved to be impossible. So instead, they used a remote control to move the doll. This worked fine until the doll started malfunctioning during filming, which required them to stop production so they could fix it. To make matters worse, the doll broke down frequently and sometimes wouldn't move at all. So much so that many of the crew believed the doll was cursed. To help hide the fact that it was a doll and not a real kid, they had the camera crew wear special hats that made the tops of their heads invisible in the final shot. Most of the film was shot using natural lighting rather than artificial lighting. This helped to speed up the process, but also added to the realism of the film. Another thing that helped the film look more realistic was the fact that the filmmakers used actual children in the film. This gave the audience someone to root for and made the threat posed by the doll seem more believable. The filmmakers had no problems casting the child roles, but they did have trouble finding an actress to play the role of Karen Barkley, the girl who receives Chucky for her birthday. They were looking for an actress between the ages of 16 and 20, and after interviewing many, they finally settled on Catherine Hicks. She had previous experience as a child actress, having appeared in films like The Bad News Bears and American Graffiti. For her role, she was paid $30,000. Brad Dourif was cast as the voice of Chucky. He had previously played the role of the serial killer in the 1984 film Silent Night, Deadly Night. Also cast in the film was Alex Vincent as Andy Barkley, Karen's younger brother. This was his first film role. He was only 7 years old at the time. Eddie Benton was cast as Mike Norris, the friend of Andy who helps him try to destroy Chucky. This was his second film role, his first being Tourist Trap, which was directed by David Schmoller, the director of Child's Play. Jennifer Tilly was cast as the girlfriend of Charles Lee Ray, the serial killer whose soul is transferred into the doll. She would go on to play the role of Tiffany in the Child's Play sequels. The last main cast member is Chris Sarandon as Detective Mike Noonan, the police officer who tries to help the kids. Sarandon was best known at the time for his voice work as the villain in The Rescuers and The Rescuers, Down Under. In January of 1988, editing on the film was completed and the finished cut was 85 minutes long. Test audiences felt the ending was weak, so the filmmakers changed it. Instead of the doll being destroyed by the other toys at Andy's birthday party, Chucky escapes through a window and is never seen again. The new ending left the audience feeling unsatisfied, so they reverted back to the original ending. Despite this, the film was given an R rating by the MPAA for strong violence and some language. Theatrical release for Child's Play took place on November 9, 1988. The film grossed over $44 million worldwide. Fans loved the idea of a possessed doll going on a killing spree. It became a pop culture sensation and spawned 6 sequels over the next 7 years. But that's gonna have to be another video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please show your support. Until next time, stay safe.